Thank you, John. We start tonight's news with a recent study that shows not a lot of students are using campus health clinics to be tested for STIs. Now, a Dalhousie researcher is finding out why. Elizabeth Tassavenuels is the principal investigator for the new study. She says there are many psychological factors that prevent students from getting tested.
The shame of having to face a doctor or a nurse and tell them about personal stuff like sexual experiences and so on might be keeping people from getting tested.
Tassavenuels says finding out what's preventing students from using the services should help universities make STI testing more student-friendly and increase the number of people who get the tests. Results of the online survey will be available on Dal Health websites by March. It was a full house at the Black Cultural Centre this past Saturday as community members took part in a Halifax Fire and Emergency Recruitment Info session. Executive Fire Officer Phil McNulty says the goal is to attract people from different backgrounds to better reflect the diverse communities in HRM.
We're very confident that we're going to end up with the result that we're looking for, which are recruit classes that look like the community.
Ali Duali is originally from Somalia. He's been a firefighter for the city for 11 years and says there are still struggles when it comes to discrimination.
There's a history for this part of the country in terms of discrimination and all this, so we come from a long way and we have a long way to go, but overall this is the best formula.
Applicants no longer have to have post-secondary education to apply and won't have to pay a costly application fee. A new community safe place is seeing lots of traffic in Lower Sackville. This area inside of Cape and Cowl Comics and Collectibles is where young people can go to be themselves. The area is named after Leanne Wichman, the former executive director of the Youth Project, a nonprofit organization that focuses services for the LGBTQ community. Wichman died suddenly in 2014. Jay Roy is the owner of Cape and Cowl and a longtime friend of Wichman's.
Any youth are safe here. They can come in, they can drop in, especially if they're in, the LGBTQI, community. They can feel safe. They know if they drop in here, they're going to be respected. Their identities are going to be respected no matter what they are, which is something that she was all about.
The area includes a kitchen, coaches, video game consoles, books, and board games. It's free to use. Roy says new events are held each week, including video game clubs, storyteller meetups, and magic tournaments. Mental health is getting a lot of media coverage these days, and more people are feeling comfortable speaking up about their own struggles. But in some African countries, it's not talked about at all. Scott Hastings tells us about a project that's working to change that.
Of stigma around mental health.
Mental Health on Air is a 3-part documentary about mental health and illness in the African countries of Tanzania and Malawi.
In Africa, the mental illness, we don't take it seriously.
We're sitting on a time bomb.
There's not much effort to address the mind.
Project Use Farm Radio, a Canadian charity that uses radio as a tool for spreading information. In this case, radio was used to break down stigmas by creating and broadcasting a soap opera radio show. The show was interactive through mobile phones. It was a teen drama dealing with real-life situations.
And radio broadcasters and journalists themselves hold the same stigmas that the general population has. So that might be stigmas around that all mentally ill people are violent, stigmas around possession and witchcraft as being causes of mental health issues.
Dr. Stan Kuchar is a Dalhousie psychiatry professor who headed the project. He is inspired by the efforts the people of Africa put forward.
How they could be so committed to do such difficult and challenging work with almost no resources because they wanted to make a difference.
When the project began 3 years ago, there was only one psychiatrist in all of Malawi, and there wasn't even a word for depression in their native language. Over 30,000 young people participated in the radio program through polls, surveys, and general messages.
The people did an amazing job. And all we did basically was give people the tools, and they went and did what needed to be done.
The program got support from major radio DJs in the area. The radio show reached over 500,000 people and had a very catchy name.
Okay, so in Malawi, the name of our radio show is Nkawa J Yonsibo, and that directly translates, so that's in the local language Chichewa, and that directly translates into a depression-free life is cool.
Organizers hope to provide the 3-part documentary to schools across Africa to promote mental health. The project was funded by the federal government, and next year, Kuchar hopes to expand it. Scott Hastings, WTV News, Halifax.
Thank you, Scott. If you want to see the documentary, look for Mental Health on Air on YouTube. A wetland in Dartmouth could be wiped out for an industrial development, and that has some community members worried. The Eisner Cove wetland is a stretch of wilderness that goes from Shearwater to the Penhorn Woodlawn area. Bill Zebedee created this Facebook page. He says he doesn't want to see the 180-hectare forest disappear.
They're going to be getting rid of a lot of the wood area around the wetland, and there's so much nature here that it's a beautiful spot just in the middle of Dartmouth. We don't want to see it disappear.
The city notified residents early last week that Innovacorp plans to use a piece of the wetland for a new industrial building. But Zebedee says there are other options that would protect the wetlands, like building a boardwalk to improve access. A community meeting is being held tonight at South End Baptist Church to discuss the plans. Many skaters and spectators headed to the Emera Oval in Halifax on the weekend to celebrate the halfway point to the Halifax Pride Festival.
Grow up, if you want to marry a boy or you want to marry a girl, that's cool. Well, that's diversity.
Beers on Ice is Halifax Pride's first event of its kind on the road to this summer's festival. Event organizers wanted to hold a more family-friendly celebration instead of an adult-only event. Karina Ferlin is the vice chair of Halifax Pride.
But there are also a lot of families, there are a lot of youth and other people in the communities who don't necessarily enjoy that kind of event. We wanted to try something different that would be a lot more inclusive.
Celebrating the halfway point to Pride is a tradition in the LGBTQ community. The Halifax Pride Festival is the fourth largest in Canada and will run from July 16th to 26th. That's your headlines for this week. We'll head back up to the studio with John and Jane.